Once upon a time, in a little town called Funnyville, there was a kindergarten class that was like no other. You see, in Funnyville, everything was a little bit silly. The trees were made of broccoli, the clouds were cotton candy, and the birds sang in funny voices. In Mrs. Giggles' kindergarten class, there was a group of lively students. There was Benny the bunny, who always hopped on one foot, Susie the Squirrel, who couldn't stop collecting acorns, and Tommy the turtle, who loved racing but always did it in slow motion. One fine day, Mrs. Giggles announced that they were going to have a silly hat day. Everyone had to come to school wearing the silliest hat they could find or make. The student with the silliest hat would win a jar of magic jelly beans that could make you laugh uncontrollably. The next morning, the kindergarten was buzzing with excitement. Benny the bunny hopped in wearing a hat made of carrots. Susie the squirrel had an acorn tower hat that was so tall she had to duck to get through the door. Tommy the turtle wore a snail hat because he thought it was funny to be a speedy turtle with a slow snail on his head. Just then, Principal Pickle wobbled into the class. He was wearing a hat that looked like a giant pickle. The class burst into laughter. Mrs. Giggles, who wore a hat that looked like a laughing sunflower, said it was time to vote for the silliest hat. The children went around and placed stickers on the hat they thought was the funniest. Benny got a lot of stickers for his carrot hat. Susie's acorn tower was popular too. Tommy got stickers because his snail was wearing tiny sunglasses. Suddenly, a parrot flew in through the window. But wait, it wasn't a real parrot. It was a hat worn by Polly the parrot, who had been on vacation and just came back. The parrot hat could talk and kept saying, "Polly wants a silly hat, too." Everyone laughed so much that their bellies hurt. In the end, it was a tie. Benny, Susie, Tommy, and Polly all won. Mrs. Giggles brought out the magic jelly beans. She warned them to only eat one at a time, as they were very powerful. But as she opened the jar, it slipped, and jelly beans went flying all over. When the jelly beans touched the floor, they started jumping around like popping popcorn. Everyone scrambled to catch them, but as soon as someone touched a jelly bean, they couldn't stop laughing. Mrs. Giggles laughed so much that she sounded like a hyena. Principal Pickle's laugh sounded like a donkey's bray. They laughed and laughed until all the magic jelly beans were back in the jar. They decided it was the best day ever and agreed to share the jelly beans, but only on very special occasions. From that day on, Silly Hat Day became a beloved tradition in Funnyville's kindergarten. It was a day full of laughter, creativity, and of course, silliness. And the kids of Mrs. Giggles' class? Well, they grew up to be the happiest, funniest, and most imaginative people in all of Funnyville. And if you ever find a magic jelly bean, remember to laugh with all your heart.